are talking about identifying adverbs. It's so much easier to identify an adjective because nouns are so much easier than verbs. And so adverbs can be so confusing because it can identify 3 different parts of speech. And adjectives only identify one part of speech. And that's the reason why they can be confusing. But I put a few up here that I want you to start cinching in your brain. We put in the last lesson a few, but here we have a few more. Okay, I want you guys to say this with me. Again, always, also, almost, tomorrow, today, tonight, yesterday. Now look at these. Tomorrow, today, tonight, yesterday. Look, these all tell when. So I put those up there so you can identify them. These are all when. Now let's go with to, just, basically, here, there. These are confusing. Honestly, far, upstairs, downstairs, earnestly, doubtfully, in, out, supremely, tremendously. Now, when you hear up and down, they are adverbs. And sometimes they can be put on the verb line, but I would put them as an adverb. So I put these up here so you can see it's up and down, upstairs, downstairs. Now, right here, in and out, where do you see those? On a prepositions list, right? You're going to see these as prepositions all of the time, but if you use them a different way in your sentence, they can be adverbs, depending on how you're used, because these are crazy prepositions that we use all of the time in our speech. Also right here, we use this word to. In the English language, we use it every day. Oh, that's too far, that's too much, that's too much milk. I used it with Paul this morning. Don't put too much milk in your cereal. I use just way too much in my regular speaking. Even in my writing, I will take the word just out. I just use it. This is used all of the time. So also I put supremely in here. We have ly words. The ly words are all over. Most of our ly words are adverbs, but we do have them as adjectives. But look, supremely. Supremely means like incredibly wonderful or great, or you did a supreme job playing the piano or something like that. Okay, so look at this word supremely. Super. We typically spell super how? S-U-P-E-R, right? But this changes it when you say supreme. So it's S-U-P-R-E-M-E and then L-Y. So look what happens here. If you have an R, typically if you have a vowel, then a vowel, and you have 2 consonants in the middle, you break them down the middle, right? Most of the time when you're decoding a word. But when you have an R right here and then a consonant right here, most of the time this consonant will attach to this R if it's an R or an L. So this forces this syllable to be long. So it's going to say su, and this is going to go preem, supreme. So a lot of people say supreme, which is fine, but supreme is how you would really pronounce that word. Or I'm sure some people will say, nope, I think it's supreme. But either way, I would say that this is the correct way to supremely. Okay? And then we have tremendously. Okay, now look at this, you guys. Modifiers of verbs. That's what adverbs are. Modifiers of verbs. What's a modifier? It's describing. It means you're describing it. You are telling that verb what it is. It's doing something, but you're giving more information about the verb, the adjective, or the adverb. Daniel, what does modifier mean?
It's describing.
It's a describing word. I mean, it means it's like giving more information. Very good. So look, modifiers of verbs, adjectives, adverbs, what do they do? I didn't put everything in here because there's so much information about adverbs. But it shows places, times, causes, affirmation, and denial. Now, affirmation, that is very positive. Like if you think of words of affirmation, you think of very uplifting words that will help people get through life better. Love and kindness. But these are adverbs of affirmation. And denial, that's a negative word. So positive, negative. Oftentimes they'll use the word for negate in here, but I think negate is a word that we don't use all of the time, and I think it will be forgotten and you'll get confused. So I've chose to use the word denial. Denial means negative, affirmation means positive. We hear affirmation all of the time in our language. Places are so easy. If you say places, they go with our wheres, and our times go with our what? Whens, right? Places go with wheres and times go with whens. But sometimes when we just say, well, you need to know the where, the when, sometimes you're not really particularly putting that places and times. And causes would go with how. It's really important that you understand that adverb, the word adverb goes clear back into the Latin language. At first it goes clear back into the Latin, and then Middle English took it and morphed it, and then it went into the Middle French and they took it and they morphed it a little bit more until eventually we are calling it an adverb. Now, verb, it's part of Latin. It comes from verbum or verbium. Both of these words, I can't remember which one's Middle English and which one's Middle French, but that's where they came from. Now, verb means word. Verb means word. And so, adverb, it means, so if you have to, it's an addition to. Okay, it means to, which means addition. So you're adding an addition to an additional word onto your verb, right? To your describing word or your verb. You're adding an addition to your main word, right? So that's what this is doing. Adverb means an addition to a word. An addition to a word. Isn't that fun? So if you think about it, it's an addition to a word, you're totally describing what it's doing. It's adding more words to this verb so you're understanding more. It's adding more words to this adjective so you're understanding more. It's adding more words to this adverb so you're understanding far more than just using, if you just use the verb, the adjective, or the adverb, right? So adding an ly to your adjectives makes your adverbs. Now, sometimes you'll see adverbal, but I would not use adverbal. I would use the word adverbial. You don't see this very often. So make sure that if you're not going to use the word adverb and you want to use the word adverbial, make sure your I is in there and don't spell it like this right here, okay? If you find a word that's like that, it'll just take you back and say it's an adverb. And that's really what an adverbial does. An adverbial clause, an adverbial phrase. It's just describing your other words. How are adverbs used? Okay, here's our tip right here. Think about what we talked about up here. Time goes with when. Place goes with where. Denial, it's a negative word, but it's a how. And we use these so often. The LYs, they are hows. It tells us the manner of things, the information about the action verb. That's what it's doing. It's giving us more information about the action verb. We also have a degree of, to what degree? Used to show intensity to its verb, its adjective, or an adverb. Too much. Remember what we talked about? Too much. That's giving us a degree and an intensity of something. So then, remember we talked about affirmation. It's positive. Look at these positive verbs. Absolutely you can go to the dance. Definitely you can go to the dance. definitely you can stop and get a smoothie when you get home. See how these are positive? Adverbs of affirmation. So let's look at this sentence. You undoubtedly played your music beautifully. So I actually wrote this today, and Daniel was practicing the piano with his piano teacher, and she said, you played that so beautiful. It was perfect. So I put that sentence together for you, Dee. You undoubtedly played your music beautifully. What word is the adverb of affirmation there?
Undoubtedly.
Yeah, this one is the affirmation. So, and then this one, it's a how. This one's a how. They're both how. How did you play? Undoubtedly you played beautifully, right? But right here, oftentimes adverbs of affirmation, they sound really good if you put them between the subject and the verb. Or if you have an auxiliary verb, if you put the word between your auxiliary verb. Let's say you have undoubtedly played your music beautifully. You have undoubtedly played your music beautifully. So the have would be here. You would put your auxiliary verb here, and it would go in between your auxiliary verb and your regular verb. See that? That's how you would use adverbs of affirmation. So it would be fun for you to look up and find out the different ones that they have. So how did you play? You played beautifully. See, this is saying it's how. Most of the time, if you see an ly, it will most likely say how. If it's going into the other areas, then it still will morph into the how, and you can find your verb on just asking the question, how. Here is another how, even though this adverb of affirmation is a how. Daniel will definitely attend prom with friends tomorrow. What are your adverbs in this sentence right here? Yep, definitely and tomorrow. Paul, the next one's yours, okay? So definitely, will definitely. See how this adverb of affirmation is in between the auxiliary verb and the regular verb? Will attend. What tense is this in? Simple future.
Simple.
So the simple future tense, but we have our adverb in between them. So they don't have to be right together. And then this right here is a when. When are you going to go? When are you attending prom? Tomorrow. When will you attend? Tomorrow you will attend. So when, see here's another one. Today I will teach my children. Today. When is it going to happen? I will teach my children today, right? Here's to what extent. This is the degree. So sometimes to what extent, what? That's kind of confusing. But if you use more of a degree, then you can see the meeting was extremely long and unnecessary. Where is your adverb here?
Extremely.
Nice, good. And it's describing what word?
Long.
Nice. It's extremely long. So today is describing will teach, right? Definitely is describing will attend. Tomorrow is describing will attend, right? That's how that's describing right here. But extremely is describing long. What's long? What part of speech is long? It's describing meeting. Paul, I love that you said it's describing meeting. If it's describing meeting, what part of speech is it? Long is an adjective describing meeting. Predicate adjective. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Because if I can say the long meeting, you know you have a predicate adjective right here. The meeting, the unnecessary meeting, you know you have an adjective right here. So it's a long meeting. So we know that this is describing, this adverb right here, boys, is describing this adjective. The dress is too long. What's your adverb there, Dan? Too.
Long.
Okay, good, nice. So too is describing long. Long is an adjective that's describing dress. The long dress. Do you see that?
Yeah.
It's too long. The dress is very short. Paul, where's your adverb?
Very.
Nice. So it's describing what word?
Short.
It's describing short. What is short describing?
Dress.
Dress. Right here. So this is a predicate adjective. It's describing dress. Can I say the short dress? The very short dress? So these right here, these are degrees. It's too long. It's very short. It's extremely long. It's extremely unnecessary. We could say it's describing this also. It's probably, I like it just describing long, but you can say extremely unnecessary. It is extremely time consuming and quite exhausting to move. What's your adverb?
Extremely.
Good. Extremely. Nice, Daniel. And it's describing what?
More time consuming.
Yep, it's describing time consuming. It's extremely time consuming, right? So this is to what extent? It's a degree. It's so much over the top. Where? I want to sleep here. Where is, that's not put very well here. We're gonna put, I want to sleep here. What's your adverb there? Sweetie, T-O will not ever be an adverb.
But T-O-O.
T-O-O is your to what extent or to what degree. So I want to sleep here is, what's your adverb in this sentence?
Here. Here.
Here. Right here. So what's it describing?
Sleep.
Sleep. This is the infinitive sleep. To sleep. I want to sleep here. It's describing this verb. Where are you sleeping? That's a question. Well, what's your adverb here?
Where.
Nice, where. So if you're struggling to find out what the adverb is, how are you going to rewrite this question?
You are sleeping.
You are sleeping where? And then where is describing are sleeping.
You are sleeping where is still like a question.
Yeah, it is. Where is a question?
Just different.
Yeah. These are places. You need to remember where goes with place. To what extent goes with degree. When is a time. Remember, they go together. I would like you to put your clothes away. What's your adverb there? Oh, it really isn't, but away. Away. It's describing put. Put your clothes away. Now, some people might think away goes with put, the verb put, but I'm putting it as an adverb here. I know I set my phone down someplace in this room.
Someplace.
Nice, very good. There's another one.
This.
It's down. You're going to put it down someplace. Where is it? It's someplace. How often do we use adverbs? How often?
All the time.
Almost always. We use them almost always. That means that we use them hundreds of times during the day while we speak, while we write. We use them all of the time. So let's talk about the definition of an adverb in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. This is the very first words that they put in the dictionary of what an adverb is. A word belonging to one of the major forms of classes of any numerous language. Do you understand what that means? This right here, I thought was really interesting and really important for you to understand. A word belonging to one of the major forms of classes. What does that mean? What does the form of classes mean? That means it is a part of speech. Now we have 4 major classes in our language. Do you know what they are? So when we're talking about a form of class, when we're talking about our language, it's a part of speech. So what are the 4 main parts of speech in the English language? Nouns, verbs, adverbs, and adjectives. So the 4 main classes, there are 4 major forms of classes in the English language, and they are nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. We say all of that when we're speaking, all of the time when we're writing. We use those 4 major forms of classes. So that's what that means when you're reading this. And it's in numerous languages. So now, That means it's in the English language. But this is what dictionary.com says. Any number of a class of words that function as modifiers of verb or clauses, and in some languages as Latin and English. So Latin and English uses adverbs. Now look at this. Any member of a class. But we have 8 classes in the English language, and maybe even I would say 9. So it's just counting the member of a class. Now we have 4 major classes, and this is just a class. It's part of this, but this one they're talking about the 8 classes. So that's what that means. It's a part of speech. Adverbs are a part of speech. They fit in the 4 major forms of classes when we're talking about that. And adverbs, they're modifiers. This one didn't even say there were modifiers really at the beginning of verbs or clauses, and in some languages. So we have it in Latin and English, which is really interesting. In the dictionary, it obviously says that we have adverbs in the English language, and which is really fun to see that they say adverbs in the Latin language, because our language is made up of 40% of Latin roots, right? At least 40%. I think it's actually higher. It was super helpful and help you understand when you're reading the beginning of that what that means. And we'll see you in the next lesson. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next lesson. Bye.